In the first part of the webinar, we covered conversion and automation, and so this week we're going to cover some different topics here. So what we're going to cover in part two. So what's the main goal of an accounting website? We can have a quick look at that. What's the structure of the best accounting websites? And we're going to have a look at search engine optimization, which is always a popular topic. Sorry, just skip through. So what's your website's main goal? I've been thinking about this since the last webinar, is that you know, probably should have outlined this before part one. And incidentally, if you want to watch part one of the webinar, that's on YouTube. You can find that through our website, so you can watch the recording there. But yeah, what's an accounting website's main goal? I think some people would say it's to get more visitors, more traffic to the website. You know, I think that's really important, but I think we showed in the last webinar the main issue for most firms isn't lack of visitors. It's that the site doesn't convert those visitors into clients. So is it that, you know, is it the website's main goal converting visitors into clients? I'd say that's really, really important, but that isn't the only purpose of an accounting website. You know, we've got other visitors, could be potential staff, other professionals you might partner with, maybe software vendors or other suppliers who are looking at you, maybe even people who are looking to you know, to try and buy your firm. So converting visitors into clients is really important, but I'd say over all of those goals, the chief goal is building trust and credibility. You know, if we take the example of potential clients, you know, visiting your site, we know from the last webinar that most visitors don't instantly become clients. You know, they don't just visit your site and then suddenly become a client. You know, selling accountancy services is not an impulse purchase. You know, it might actually take several interactions through the website or, you know, offline before you win a new client. So the website's kind of role in that is really about building trust and credibility, and that's how people are going to make a decision about engaging you. So, you know, what your website is trying to do is demonstrate your professionalism, you know, show the outcomes you've got for past clients. That to me is the main goal, and I think we're going to come back to that through the webinar in how we that's going to inform how we structure the site, what content we put on the site. So it's super important, because you know, if you don't have trust and credibility, you're not going to get conversions from your site, because you know, why would someone kind of engage you if they don't trust you? And if your site doesn't convert, then you know, there's kind of no point getting more visitors here. So we're going to have a look at SEO later, but you know, this building trust and credibility is what's going to underpin what we talk about today. So the first thing I want to look at is the structure and the content of really successful accounting websites. We work with lots of different firms across kind of all the English-speaking countries, and we keep coming back to the same kind of structure that seems to really work, and I'm going to outline that now, and then we'll go into that in a bit more detail. So homepage, well, that's pretty obvious. You know, we need a homepage. We're going to have a look at kind of things that you need on it, and also some of the things that you probably should omit as well. An about page is pretty important. Not as important probably as it's often given precedence. The team page, actually this is one of the most important pages on your site. We did some research before this webinar, and it got some pretty interesting results and in terms of your team page and how often that's viewed. Case studies and testimonials, super important in positioning yourself properly online. Services page, you know, again, don't think that's rocket science, but I think you know, what I'm going to show you is how to really strip back your services page and have a lot less on it, and that'll be more effective. Resources, you know, so what content are you giving away to demonstrate you're an expert? Your blog, we'll go through that quickly. Contact page, you know, it's pretty obvious that you need a contact page. Give you some quick tips there, and landing pages. So you know, that is the basic structure of successful sites, and it probably isn't that too different to your own website, but possibly some of the execution of those things might be what's holding you back if you're not getting the the kind of results you want through your website. So first thing, we're going to have a look at the home page. Now, the first thing I'm going to say about your home page is it's important not to put too much focus on it. I've seen this with lots of firms, and I've seen it with lots of businesses that I've worked with over the years with their websites, is that they obsess over their home page. So the first thing to realize is that most of your traffic to your website will come from the other pages of your site. Definitely your website, well, not definitely, but I'd say 99.9% of cases, your website will have the majority of traffic to your site. So, you know, for example, with the BizInc website, we get about 29% of our traffic is to the home page. But, you know, obviously there, so 71% is coming from the other pages of the site. And that's because of lots of things. That's because of search engines. It's because we run marketing campaigns and direct people to specific pages within the site. But, you know, what that demonstrates is, you know, the homepage is important. A lot of people will land there, you know, obviously close to a third for us. But actually, don't put all your effort there. It's not the be all and end all. And kind of an extension of that is, I see what a lot of firms try and do is they try and do everything on their homepage. So kind of what I mean is, you know, they're trying to communicate everything about themselves and try and seal the deal with somebody landing on the site on the homepage, and that's just not possible. You know, especially keep going back to, but you know, selling accounting online, it's not a simple thing. It's about building that trust and credibility. So you can't just do that in one here. So we see as firms trying to cram too much into that small space on the home page, and that can kind of overwhelm a visitor. What we're really trying to do is you know, we're trying to build trust and credibility, and that takes time. So really the main purpose of the home page is to actually engage a visitor and pull them into the site so that they dig a little deeper, and we can start that kind of credibility building process. So, you know, look, this is a home page. We showed this in the first kind of part of the webinar, and you know, it's got all the things that you'd want on there, like the contact details are really prominent, calls to action, here got a chat window. So these are all things we discussed, kind of more features on the in the first part of the webinar. What I wanted to have a look at today in terms of content on the homepage was kind of the slider on the homepage, because that's something that pretty much all firms seem to have. And I think there's like a big mistake that a lot of firms make is that they've got an image on the homepage, like a really cheesy stock image of some generic business people, you know, very PC image of people of different age, different races, and you know, it looks terrible. It does nothing to build trust and credibility. It's not authentic, and it's very generic. And you know, what we're trying to do in all marketing really is to stand out, is to be different. So, you know, having these kind of stock images which are clearly not of people in your firm, it just doesn't work. And you know, people have a pretty strong detection for what's a stock image or not. You know, you can't kid them. So avoid these kind of images at all costs. Which begs the question, which kind of images should you be using on your website? And theme I'm going to come back to a few times in this webinar is it's about human connection. So the best images that you can have are real images of you and your clients, or you know, images of you, images of your clients, or maybe you with your clients. Give to see in a minute when we look at the team page stats that people actually want to see you. You know, they want to see the people in your firm. So if you can get professionally taken photographs of, or a photograph of you and your team, that would be a really good thing to have. I would say even better than that would be images of your clients. So, you know, an image of your clients probably in their workplace, because that can be really interesting. You know, if you've got a client that's, I don't know, let's say a farming client, go and take them in a field. You know, that could be really cool. And you work with a logistics company, you know, go and get a photo taken by a boat or a truck or something like that. You know, so that would be, it would stand out, it's authentic, and then what you're going to want to do with those images is then link them through to, say, a case study that you've written about that client. And we'll have a look at case studies and testimonials in a minute, but that to me would almost be the perfect thing, is like a great image of a client, the really good case study linked to it, you know, demonstrating an outcome for a real business. So with those kind of images, if you can get them professionally taken, you know, it's a bit of an outlay, but I would suggest that, you know, that's going to pay you back quite a lot. Professionally taken images will last you for a good while. If you can't get that kind of imagery, you know, if you can't get a good photo of your team or your clients, then I would say as a second kind of option, you could look at using maybe some good local imagery. So, you know, the good stock libraries can do that. We can research that for you. We do that for our clients. Find something that what you're trying to do is find something that resonates with people. So if most of your clients are local, then maybe there's some kind of local thing that you can do there that that resonates with them. Or, you know, if you've got clients that are really in a certain niche or an industry, maybe there's some kind of imagery you can use there. So I don't know, go back to the farming example. You know, you could potentially have some farm machinery or fields or something like that. You know, if you felt that would resonate with your client base. So we've got a couple of examples of what I think are really, you know, is a good execution of a homepage image. And this is one of Bizzing's clients in Auckland in New Zealand. And what I like about this is, you know, first of all, it's a photo of one of their clients. So the second thing is, like, you know, the actual composition of the photo. You've got somebody, you know, she's smiling, she's looking at you, the viewer, and that's really engaging. You're making that human connection. It's just sending a lot of the right messages, you know, kind of psychologically. It's also linked to a case study, so, you know, you've got this kind of, I can happily report that Xero changed my life, and this, you know, you click through and you read about all the cool stuff that that Wise Advice have done for this client, and you know, carry on with that local thing. You know, there's an image of Auckland in the background that's there as well. So, you know, it's ticking a lot of those boxes, and I think that's a really effective kind of execution. They've also got a slide, and this is Brad, who's the owner of the firm. You know, again, it's a nice quote from him. It's not just about the numbers, it's about people, and then it clicks through to talk a bit about him and what they do. So, you know, I think they're two examples of really good images on the homepage. These cycle through as like an image slider. Possibly, I would recommend just having one image, one message on your homepage. There's a bit of research to show that people don't tend to sit there and watch those animated, or, you know, those images that slide through. So, you know, I think if you can choose your most impactful image and message, that's the best. That would be my advice. That's the advice we give to clients, and quite a few of them don't take it. They actually still have the sliding images, but I think one image, one really good message is the most effective. That doesn't mean you could change that message over time. Experiment with different ones that work and see what happens. But yeah, I don't think you have too much information in that kind of section on your site. The second thing I was going to have a look at is the About Us page, and the first thing I'd say with this is keep it simple. I see some really long, kind of long-winded about pages where you see the firms talking about themselves, and people they're not interested. They're interested in what's in it for them, and they just want an overview. So my second point would be your about page actually shouldn't be about you. It should be about your clients. Explain that a little bit more. Is that as an accountant, as a professional, you're there to serve your clients. So what you're really about is your clients. So on your about page, I would be personally explaining what are the type of clients you work with, what work you do for them, why they choose you. So instead of kind of talking about yourself, you talk about them. You talk about their kind of, and then you're talking to somebody who's visiting your website, rather than kind of it's a monologue about yourself. And the language you should use, like, don't brag or use hyperbole. People are very sensitive to what I would call marketing language these days. So, you see sites and things like, we are the leading firm, or we're the best, we're renowned in our area. That kind of copy, just drop it. Any superlatives, just wipe them out. Make your copy sound quite, in a sense, neutral. What I'm going to say is that the way to so just get back, the way to demonstrate how good you are, we'll come to that later, and the way to do that is through case studies and testimonials. What's the old phrase, is that reflected glory is the best. So yeah, don't make all these kind of hollow claims. Back them up with kind of case studies and testimonials from clients. That's the way to do it. So About Us page, keep it nice and short, and basically explain what you do for people. Don't make it all about you. So this one, the team page, this was really interesting. We did some research, and we had a look through our clients' web stats in Google Analytics, so which tracks visits to their sites. And what we found was the second most visited page. So the first visitor page for all the sites we looked at was the home page. The second most visited page for 90% of our client sites was team page. And actually some of those other sites that, in that 10% didn't have a team page. So, I'd say if we took it probably on sites that had a team page, it would probably be 100%. And, I think that's fascinating for a number of reasons. First of all, I think a lot of firms you talk to, so is the team page that important? People don't necessarily want to see us. This proves 100% that they do. And my theory on that is that, it's a kind of old adage, isn't it, in sales, that people buy from people. So we're coming back to that human connection thing. Being an accountant, you're in the relationships business. So to me, this is, and obviously having a human relationship online is potentially it's not the same as having a face-to-face meeting. But if we're going back to that trust and credibility thing, then it's the start of that process. You're building that human connection with somebody. So I was fascinated by that statistic, and what it says is basically, A, you have to have a team page, and I think B, put some real effort into that page. So the professionally taken photos, write some really good profiles, because you've got prospects looking at that, but who else is also looking at that team page? It could be prospective employees. What impression are you giving to them? So that's really interesting to me. Is that team page is a super important part of the site. And you know, you can.
Sorry, Matt. I've just had a question just around those team pages, if I may.
Yeah.
I've had someone ask, team page, what if you're a one-person firm? So what do you do if you're, say, a one-man band? Do you still have a team page and a bit of about us and what we do? What would you recommend there?
I think yeah, then I wouldn't, maybe you could have an about page which had your profile on it. So I've seen that with, we've got a lot of clients who are one-man bands, and that's what they would do. So it could be on your about page, and then you've got that photograph. I guess what's important on this page is, I'd say, you need the photographs on there for a start, or like this site you can see in the back, a client called Numberwise. They've got these really cool kind of caricatures. So that's a little bit quirky, and it's bringing across their personality. So, that approach might not work for all firms, but that's what we're trying to do, is create a human connection. So whether we do that on a dedicated team page, or whether we do that on just an about page that has a photograph and some details about you as a person, then I think that solves that. That's what you're looking to do. So the next thing I want to have a look at is case studies and testimonials, and I think this is something that, like, we all know about. We probably know we should do it a bit better than we do, but somehow we never get around to it, and we're guilty of that at BizInc as well. We could have better case studies on the site. We're trying to work on that at the moment, but what I know is that the Our Work section, which is basically a portfolio, that's one of the most popular parts of our website. So the thing about case studies is, they are time consuming, but they're worth it in the end. They're actually one of the most powerful types of online content that you can have, and especially if we are, we're not doing comparison shopping here. It's not like someone's buying I don't know, a pair of sneakers, and they're just comparison shopping, and they're going to buy on price. We're selling, we're talking about relationships. We're talking about something that could be a relationship that lasts 10, 20 years. So you need to demonstrate that trust and credibility, and the best way to do that is through really good case studies. What we're trying to do in a case study is demonstrate the outcomes that you can make for a client. So you don't want testimonials. Okay, someone saying such and such accountants are great, but to take that one step further, we want a case study where we say, here's a scenario. We did this for this client, and this was the outcome. And you don't need a whole load of those. Maybe, I don't know, 3, 4, 5. It's probably going to be enough. If you, depends what kind of niches you work with, different industries. But a few case studies done really well is hugely powerful. And why they're powerful is we're again going back to that human thing, that community thing. Good case studies not written in marketing speak. So again, we want to strip out all that hyperbole and that kind of language, superlatives. If you can get your client to write one for you in their language, that's probably the ultimate. As we know, sometimes getting clients to do that, it's going to be pretty hard. So what I would suggest, probably the quickest way you can get that done, would be quick call with them, or maybe a Skype that you can record. And then have someone write that up, whether it's someone in your firm or you pay a writer to transcribe that. Could add in images. You could even have video. That's another way you could do it, and that would be really, really powerful. I've seen that done. A video of a client talking about what you've done for them, and you could have several talking heads like that. So different forms that could take. but you need some of this kind of content on your website because it will trump everything else. You know, you could, you know, write all this kind of awesome copy that's, you know, we think this about ourselves, but, you know, someone else saying it, you know, obviously that reflected glory thing, hugely powerful. And, you know, when you've got them on your website, you can also then chop them up and reuse them, use parts of them as testimonials, use them in sales presentations. There's so much you can do with them when you've got them. So, you know, we haven't got time to kind of go into them in depth, but I think it's something that everyone understands. I would say, you know, it often goes in the too hard basket, but if you really want your website to excel, you're going to need to do something related to, you know, demonstrating client outcomes. So, yeah, case studies, testimonials, however you do it, I think you need to look at that this year. So the services page on your website, or pages, or huge sections, as I see on some accounting firm sites, I think what we need to look at with that is the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Like a lot of firms, I think, overinflate this section of their website. They fill it full of like technical stuff, of jargon, and I honestly think most of it just is a waste of time. It does not get read. Several reasons for that. Like one, I mean, like jargon never works in marketing. You know, you should always remove that and try and write in very simple language. You know, even if you're writing to people who you think will understand the jargon, don't do it. You know, write in simple terms. You know, there's thousands of studies that will show that. The other thing is that most business owners don't understand what they need. You know, they may come to you because they know they need like a tax return, but what they actually need is a tax return and like a whole load of other advice on cash flow, on tax planning, you know, structuring their business, and you know, you're not going to kind of be able to explain that stuff to them in a services page. So, you know, rather than having all this kind of huge list of different services that you do, I would say, you know, my preference would be just have one page, like call it services, call it what we do. You know, you might have a couple if you do business clients, personal clients, so, you know, you might split it up that way, but just a very simple page, because you're not going to sell somebody off a services page on your website. It's not e-commerce. It doesn't work like that. What you're trying to do is, again, repeat it for the 20th time, it's the kind of trust and credibility thing, and you're not going to build that through a services page. What you build that through is somebody getting in touch with you, and you know, you have a meaningful conversation with them or exchange emails, but you know, you're not going to just sell that off a website page. And you know, we'll go back to like marketing 101, sell on benefits, not features. So you know, a services page is pretty much a features page. What you want to do is, again, demonstrate those outcomes. So you might have a services page, but then on the bottom of that, have those case studies or testimonials. So you're actually showing the benefit, not just these are some technical things that we can do. I think you also need to have, whether you call it a resources page, I've just called that a resources page for shorthand here, is you need a page or a section in your website where you've got basically you're demonstrating proof of your skills and expertise through useful content. So you know, that could be you know, guides to aspects of running a business, tools that you give away. It could be a course. You need to have some kind of resources on your website that show, you know, rather than just saying what you do, you're demonstrating it. So, you know, we talked about this in the first part of the webinar. The modern way of marketing is giving away to get something back. You know, be generous with your knowledge. We could call it content marketing, inbound marketing. You're giving away your knowledge, and that, you know, that pulls people towards you. So that's a really important thing to have on your website. And you know, obviously hard to create a whole bunch of content. If that's something you're struggling with, outsource. You know, professional writers are less expensive than you would think, or you know, a company like BizInk can create that content for you. So yeah, extension of that would be blogging. So we covered this again in the first part of the webinar. But you know, your blog, it's got several purposes. It keeps your site looking fresh. Why that's important is people are getting referred to you. They want to come and see an active website. You know, blogging is a great way to show your personality. You know, you're really trying to differentiate, especially as compliance is becoming more commoditized. You're really looking to differentiate yourself over other firms. And final thing I would say, it focuses your efforts. You know, if you're going to update your website, and you know, in that I mean you definitely should be updating your website, then the blog is the best place to do that. You know, you don't want to be endlessly updating your about page or your services page. There's just no need to do that. So to keep your website ticking over, the blog is the right place to do that. Contact page, I mean, pretty obvious, right? You need a contact page on your site, and you need to make it easy with multiple ways for people to get in touch. So, you know, at a minimum, you're going to want phone number, email address, online form. Forms are good if you like, say, on a mobile device particularly, and it's fiddly to try and be clicking on email and that kind of thing. You can just fill in a form. That's quite handy. You know, you might have things like live chat on there as well. You'll want to include a map, so a Google map on there, and a Google map that's you've created through your Google Places listing, or whatever they call it now. They changed the name of that, but you know, where you list your business on Google, you're going to want to embed that map back into your website. That's important for SEO with that kind of local search aspect. You don't want to just rely on your contact page in terms of ways for people to get in touch with you. You're also going to want your contact details on every page of the site. So, you know, like this site's got their phone numbers at the top. You know, you want to do something like that. Most websites should have the address or contact details in the footer as well. So just make it really easy for people to get in touch. There's no point doing all these kind of other good things on the site around content, and if people are all excited and they can't get in touch with you, so make that super easy as well. So yeah, include a map, contact details everywhere. Landing pages would be the final thing I want to talk about in this kind of anatomy of successful sites. So you know, I'd say the sites we see do the best definitely make really good use of landing pages, and when I'm talking about landing pages, what we're talking about is just a website page that's focused on a single topic. It usually has a very clear aim as well, which is typically to get a user to take an action. So something like sign up for a demo, download a guide, join a webinar. So, you know, I'd recommend what you should be doing is creating landing pages for your target markets. So that probably's got a local focus for most firms, and that's where it might stop. It might just be a landing page for firms in your area. You might also specialize in certain industries or niches. If you do that, then a landing page is ideal for that, and that's where you'll want to be directing your marketing campaigns. Your targeted marketing campaigns should be aiming at this landing page. So it could be a page that's like in your menu. So it could be accountants for like farmers, like we were talking about earlier. That could be a page on your site, or it could be hidden. So if there was like a page that you didn't necessarily want just people to browse to, have that hidden, but you could still direct You can still direct traffic to that through campaigns, and it can also help with SEO. So we're going to talk about search engines in a couple of minutes, and landing pages can be perfect for that, particularly with this local focus. You know, you can build pages based on the specific phrases that people are putting into Google in your area. You can build pages just about that topic, and that's going to really help you kind of go up the rankings for those terms. So yeah, jumping onto search engines. So, you know, like I think what we're seeing there is that's the basic structure of a really good website, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Like I say, actually, I think the simple sites do really well. Where you can have depth in your site, it is things like your blog. So having a really deep blog with lots of content on there, maybe on your resources page. But the rest of the site doesn't need to be overcomplicated, like your about page and your services, because people aren't going to come in there and you know, I don't think anyone wants to come and read heaps of stuff about accounting services. I don't think accountants want to read that, you know. So make your site nice and simple, and you know, go back to the first webinar with that structure plus the things in that first webinar, those conversion tactics. Put those two things together, and that you'll have a site that's going to convert a visitor into an interested lead or hopefully a client. So, you know, hopefully that kind of joins the dots a little bit with that part of it. What I'd like to do for the last part of this webinar is actually look at how we can drive a little bit more traffic to your website. And you know, search engine optimization or SEO is a topic that, you know, it's always a hot topic. People are always interested in it. People always want to be seen at the top of the Google listings. And what I've heard for years is there's a lot of SEO myths that are around. So what I want to do is kind of debunk some of those myths, and then hopefully just show you how you don't actually need to worry too much about SEO. For most firms, it's not going to be too big a deal, and you can do kind of what I'm going to call good enough SEO with a minimum of effort. So first SEO myth is that you need experts to do SEO. So I think this myth is probably put around by, in inverted commas, SEO experts who probably, if you've ever come to any of my other webinars, I don't actually have the highest opinion of. What you really need is, you know, to do well with SEO, you need a good website. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you're like an accountant in, so my small town here, Wanaka in New Zealand, if you're an accountant in Wanaka, you make a site that mentions being an accountant in Wanaka. We'll do some things that I'm going to show you in a minute that are fairly basic. You're probably going to do okay in terms of SEO. Focus on creating a good website that's about your clients, that's about, you know, your local area, and it should do okay in most cases. So, you know, how do I know this? Why am I claiming to be? Well, I'm not claiming to be an expert, but how do I know that? First of all, you just have to read what Google says. You know, that they explain what the things they're looking for in sites, you know, who they want to kind of put at the top of the rankings. They kind of explain that. So what they're saying is, you know, make a good relevant website, you'll do okay. And the second reason why I know this is I've experienced it with my own businesses, is that you know, with a bare minimum of effort, if you make a relevant website, then you do pretty well in search engines. The second thing is, like, which is a myth, is that if you're in top in Google, you can have lots of clients. So, you know, it could mean that, but I would suggest that, like, often search engine traffic isn't the best type of traffic. You know, especially for accounting firms or even companies like BizInc, where what we do isn't simple. So if you go back to the the example I gave before of comparison shopping for some sneakers, that's pretty simple. You type in maybe the sneakers you're looking for, you compare it, you see a cheap price, you just buy them. That's not what we're doing. It's this relationships game. It's a lot more complex. So people might search for something, they might find your site, but does that mean they're a great fit or anything like that? Who knows? You're going to get a lot of traffic from Google that's quite untargeted. So you could be top, but might not necessarily mean that you're getting the kind of people you want to your site. The second thing about that is that, going back to the first part of the webinar, is that most sites don't convert. So, even if you were getting thousands of visitors a month from Google, if your site doesn't convert them, then it's not that important. So, that's, like we said last time, put your focus on conversion rather than more traffic, and then deal with the traffic thing after that. And the final thing I'd say about this is that there's lots of firms who don't come top in Google who still get lots of search engine traffic and still do all right out of it. We've got a lot of firms in Sydney in Australia who are clients. And that's a city of nearly 5 million people. Very, very hard to get to the top of Google for most of the phrases, but still they get traffic and do okay. So that obsession to be at number one, I'd say if you're in a small town, it's going to be pretty easy. If you're in a big city, a lot harder. And I don't know, is it going to make that much difference to you? I'd suggest it's not for a lot of firms, or not as much as they might think. Final myth, duplicate content. We get asked about this all the time, so whether you've heard this or not, there's a lot of people have been told that if you have duplicate content on your website, you're going to get smashed in the Google rankings, you're going to get banned from Google. It's just not true at all. It's what happened. It's about 5, maybe more, about 7 years ago. Google changed the algorithm in there, the way they rank sites, and certain sites which are really bad offenders, which are just like copied content off other sites, were kind of pushed out the listings. So that was why Google made the change, was to stop those sites that were just made of unoriginal content. But this myth kind of get around that if you had any duplicate content on your site, you were going to get hammered. Well, actually, the head of search at the time, a guy called Matt Cutts, put out a video. If you search for Matt Cutts duplicate content, you'll find this video where he's just saying, look, it's not true. There's lots of reasons why you might have duplicate content on your site. Social media sharing, there are technical reasons. Some websites create duplicate content. Or you could have like some really good resources like that we give to clients. That could be on more than one client's site. It doesn't affect their SEO one bit. It might not help them that much, but it's certainly not going to hinder them. At worst, it's going to have a neutral effect on SEO. So that duplicate content thing, we get asked about that a lot. So you may not have heard of it, but I just wanted to put it out there that's a bit of a myth in terms of how that's going to affect your site. So what I want to talk about now, just finish off the webinar, is how do we do SEO on an accounting website, and I want to call this like good enough SEO. So what I mean about this is like how important is SEO to your firm? It's the first question you've got to ask before we go off and start thinking we've got to be top in Google for this, that, and the other. How important is it? Like, to reiterate, it is good to have visitors to your site, but only if they're the right type of visitors. So, if you doubled your number of visitors but didn't get, any more clients from that, it's a pointless exercise. That's just actually going to cost you money in hosting. So, if we can increase targeted search engine traffic, that's great. Just becoming top of Google for the sake of it, I'm going to suggest is kind of pointless. So, and again, going back to the first webinar, making your site convert, way more important than traffic. And the final thing I'd say about search engine optimization is I'm going to show you the basics now, and I think this will get you most of the way. If you've got limited time to do marketing, which I've not met any firms who don't have limited time to do marketing, then you've got to choose what's most effective. And I'm going to suggest that you'll have way more success with things like email marketing, with sharing good content, running a webinar, for example. You're going to get way more clients from doing that kind of thing than you do from coming top in Google or whatever. But putting, not necessarily from coming top in Google, but for the amount of effort that you're going to put into SEO, I suggest there's other things you can do which are more worthwhile. And if we've got limited time, we've got to do the most effective things. So just putting that proviso there, like let's have a look at what I call good enough SEO. So good enough being it will get us enough search engine traffic to keep some clients coming through, but that extra bit to kind of get like way more traffic, I suggest the amount of effort you'd have to put in to do that, it's going to be diminishing returns as what comes back. You've got a lot of effort for probably a very incremental gain. So the first thing we need to do with SEO is understand what phrases people are using to try and find you. People say, I want to be top in Google. Well, my question then is, for what? The several phrases people could use, and each of them you could come top for or not. So we need to understand what are the most important phrases. Then we need to have a look at what the key components of SEO are, which is site structure, content, that's the most important thing by a long way, and inward links. So what are people searching for? So to find this out, first thing you're going to want to do is, well, just take an educated guess. I mean, if you're an accountant or a bookkeeper, and then, append your area onto that. So, example here, accountant Sydney, that's probably going to be one of the main phrases. So write down those, put them in a spreadsheet, write down some of the things that you think people use to find you, tax returns, that'd be another one, and put those down. Then what you want to want to do is go into Google AdWords. So Google AdWords is Google's paid search tool. You don't have to pay, just register for an account. But they'll try and make you set up some advertising campaigns. Just ignore all that stuff and go straight to tools, and then click on keyword tool. So you click on the keyword tool, and this is a picture of that keyword tool here. And what you're going to want to do is put in your keyword. You can set your locations, languages, things like that. So you may want to do that, you may not. You can play around with that to see what kind of filters work, and that'll bring back some results. Now you'll get ad group ideas and keyword ideas. I want you to click on keyword ideas, and what that will do is show you the keywords that people are using in your area to search for. So we've put in accountant Sydney here, and it's showing related terms. So accountant Sydney, actually two different phrases in Google's mind. Accounting firm Sydney, Sydney accountants, etc. So what we're going to do is try and get a list of those phrases. Some people call them keywords. They're actually going to be phrases. So those key phrases, get them in a list, and probably get about 20. No more than that. That's probably too many. Like maybe 10, but no more than 20. And what we can actually filter this by the average monthly searches. So how many people are using that phrase to search in a particular month? So we add these up, these several phrases, well over 1,000, 2,000. That's good. We want to try and rank on those. There might be some that are getting like 10 a month, which we probably don't want to bother with those. So once we've got our list of phrases, we can now start weaving those into the website. So this is where kind of we're looking at site structure and content. So with site structure, all I mean is it's basically how your site's built, but don't get too hung up on it. You know, if you're using a modern content management system or website publishing platform like WordPress or Joomla or Catalyst, something like that, it's going to be okay. And in fact, some of the websites that I see that do incredibly well in Google, you know, they kind of break what are the so-called rules of how you structure a site. So don't get too hung up on it. This is again where your SEO experts will probably overplay this aspect. It doesn't matter that much. You know, most modern websites will be adequate. And then what you're going to want to do is structure your pages in like a logical way. So much like you would write a document, you know, like whatever, a business plan, you're going to have like your main headings, subheadings, and subheadings. That's the kind of structure you want to look at using, you know, the kind of editor in your website. So they call those things like heading tags. They're quite important. We'll talk about them in a second. So, you know, but don't get hung up on this part of it. It's in some senses the smallest part of SEO. The most important part by a long way is content. That's the most important part of SEO. So what's going to be on your site, and this is where you need to spend most of your time. So if we followed that structure that I suggested earlier in terms of how to structure your website, I say if you filled out those pages how I suggested, you're kind of most of the way there in terms of SEO. And this is where, you know, going back to this good enough, you know, if you create a focused website that kind of meets the expectations of your clients and references your local area, then, you know, in terms of what Google's looking at, you're going to be a long way there. So, you know, that's what I said, creating a good site, and, you know, that's a kind of you know, there's a lot in that good, but I'm just trying to kind of dispel some of this worry that I see with firms over SEO, that A, that it's going to make like the biggest difference to them, and B, that it's really hard. It's not. And, you know, just creating a kind of a sensible website is going to get you a lot of the way there. And then what you're going to do is, given that structure that we discussed, you want to weave in some of those key phrases. So you'll want to create pages for your most important phrases. So this is where we go back to the landing pages thing. You know, we might create an Accountant Sydney landing page and fill that full of content about Accountant Sydney, and then what you might also want to do is create one for Sydney accountants. So they would be where you'd want your hidden landing pages. You know, it looks silly if you had Accountant Sydney, Accountant Sydney, Sydney accountants, Sydney accountant, singular. They're all 4 different phrases to Google which you'd want to rank on if you're in Sydney. You'd probably want to create 4 different landing pages for each of those, but you probably don't want those in your menu. So have those as like hidden pages that Google can still see, but people can't browse to. On those pages, you're going to want to use that key phrase several times. So that's where with this structure thing, we want to use the heading tags. So, you know, mention that in the headings. Google likes that. The link of the page itself, the URL, it's good to have the phrase in it. So, you know, the page would be like, you know, yourdomain.com/Sydney-accountants or something like that. That would be really good. So you're just weaving those key phrases into those pages, and maybe a Google map if that's appropriate. You know, it would be for a local page like Sydney Accountants. Put that map in there as well. That's tying it into the local side and Google's local search listing as well. So, you know, that I would say, if you basically go through that process, find your key phrases, create pages related to them, and, you know, generally have a good website like we described, that's going to take you most of the way with SEO. It really will. And, you know, if you want to take that further, that will give you enough data to see what's working and what's not. That if you want to kind of go and spend a lot of time to really kind of, you know, ensure you're top for several phrases, you can do that. But like I say, I think it would be diminishing returns after after this kind of side of things you've done here. Final part of SEO would be inward links. Now, this used to be a really important part of Google's algorithm, basically how they rank websites. So when Google launched, they kind of won the search engine wars of the early 2000s because their algorithm was more sophisticated and it put the best websites to the top. And the way that they ranked that was that they said, actually, if a website has lots of people linking to it, it's probably quite good. So we should put that above a site that has no one linking to it. That's a very rough way of describing it. And so what happened then, people were sort of buying links and getting all these kind of crappy links to their websites, and then Google changed their rankings, penalized those people. It's still important, but it's not that important. So what I would say is, like, look at it as something that's worth doing. It's definitely worth doing, but you don't need to stress it too much. And what I would say, best sources for links to your site would be get linked to from industry association websites. So hopefully they do that. They put you in their directory. You know, vendors, so Xero's directory, QuickBooks directory. You know, you can think of lots of other ones. There's lots of other apps that you might work with. They tend to have directories. They're good sites to link back to you, so that's all good. Social media is really good. So Google really likes it if you've got lots of, you know, your own sites, but also other people's social media sites linking back to you. That's a really, really good thing to do. So that's a big reason why you might want to be active on social media. That's beyond the scope of this webinar, but it's a really good source of inward links. You might want to also have a look at, you know, local business directories, that kind of thing. But I would say, you know, do those things. Again, that's going to probably look after itself. The one you could be more active with there is probably social media. But in terms of doing what used to be called like link building campaigns, I think that's going to be a big waste of time and effort for you. You know, maybe if you're a big e-commerce retailer, but for an accounting website, it's going to be overkill, I think. So that's where I want to finish. The takeaways, I think this is the main one for me across both webinars. What you're doing on your site to build trust and credibility, you know, that is what we're trying to do with all of this. So to follow the structure that the best accounting websites use. You know, you've seen that, and we'll give out the slides and recording, so you've got that there. Keep it really simple. You want to demonstrate outcomes. Again, obviously that's about the trust and credibility, and about not using that marketing language, about letting other people kind of do the selling for you. Demonstrate, or typo there, demonstrate your expertise. That's super important as well. So you want to do that through really good content and resources on your site. And if you can do all of that, then you've got a site that's worth pushing some traffic to, and that's where search engine optimization comes in. And what I'm saying to you is, like, it's not that hard to be good enough, so don't stress the SEO side of it. I think with a moderate amount of effort, you can achieve some pretty good results in Google. And if you live in a really competitive area in terms of how many firms are there, that makes that job a lot harder. But you've also got more people to aim at through to traditional marketing methods or other marketing methods. SEO might not be that important. So I'm going to wrap it up there, but I'm going to stick around to answer some questions. So thanks a lot for coming along. If you want to get your website audited, we're going to send out a survey after the webinar. We did that before the last webinar, and we got a big backlog of those. So if we haven't got to your site yet, we will do. Apologise for that, but kind of Christmas got in the way. But we are going to get around to all of those website audits. And if you'd like to find out a little bit more about BizInc, check out our website, bizinconline.com, and it's /tour if you'd like a quick online demo of what we can do. So yeah, thanks a lot for coming along, and I'm going to stick around to answer some of your questions.
Thanks, Matt. We've got a couple of questions in already. The first one is around landing pages. How do we create
Yes.
one? What do we include? What do we not include? Or alternatively, are you going to run a webinar on this?
That's about 10 questions. So how you create them? Well, lots of different ways. Like landing pages is a sort of like quite an unspecific term that gets used in different ways. I always use it to mean it's just a page about a single topic. So in terms of what to include on it, what you're trying to do is usually just get someone to take an action. So another word for them is like squeeze pages. You're sort of squeezing somebody down to do one thing. And so normally that's going to be like they're going to get in touch with you, they're going to download something, they're going to sign up for a webinar. So what you want to put on there is actually not very much. You want to keep the information to a minimum because you don't want to distract them. So you know, if it's about sign up for a webinar, I'll just jump on to let me see if I can just find the page here while I'm talking because it will make things a lot easier. So this is the landing page for this webinar. So what we've got on it, like not a lot. We've got the action we want them to take, secure your place. So obviously that's what we want to happen. Not too much information. It's just basically highlighting the benefits, what you'll learn. Picture of some strange looking guy here, a little bit of text that explains a bit more about it, and then we've got some giveaways on there. So that's what I'd say is the landing page. Keep it really simple, and how you create them. That we create this through our website. We've got a special template built by our design team so that we can just create one. So you know, you can create one in pretty much any website platform. There's not a prescribed way to do that. The other alternative is to use something like lead pages. So this would be external. This wouldn't be on your website. I think you could probably do it through your own domain name, but these are like a service which you pay for where you can just create one-off landing pages. So you'll often see these for, I don't know, like books or courses or something like that. So you could do that. But if you can give me your email address, I can send some more details on how landing pages work.
Thanks, Matt. And following on from that, I'm assuming this refers to when you were speaking about Google AdWords and bits and pieces. What does ad mean for the top firms on the search?
Just explain that to me again.
So the question is, what does ad as an AD mean for the top firms on search? So I'm assuming he's talking about.
Oh, got you. Yeah, got you. It just means it's a paid advert. So Google has two types of search listings. So yeah, I'll go online again to show this. So if I type in like accountants Sydney. I can't spell. We'll click that again. So what we can see here is these are paid listings. So someone's paid to be listed here and on this right-hand side. These are map listings, so these aren't paid. And then the first one that we get is City Tax Accountants. So they're the first site that comes up in the listings. So that's what we call organic or natural listings. They're the free ones, or you know, so these guys have done their good SEO, or maybe not, who knows? And then, but these ones are the paid for ones. That's what it means.
Thanks, Matt. I've had a couple more people request some information on landing pages, so Matt will get that out to everyone following the webinar when we get that together for you. We've got no further questions at this stage, so if you do have a burning question, you can reach Matt on one of those email addresses or via the BizInc site. And we've just had someone pop a message through saying, great presentation, thank you. I missed the first seminar, can I get a copy of the recording? So yes, we'll get that recording out to you as well.